나가서 데네미기 윤den기 시제다 디네기 게든 주위에기 유디 안내가나가네 세팅하고 디카사 데네 슈거레 데네사다 저게 데네미기 제고 세정보되야당 덴텔이야 안에 기회 전부 개심을 주투에기 데네 윤den디 요야디다 디 유디 가rel라나 저 규사고야디 당한 저기 게디네 안능아서 삼노나리야 셴리야 셈젤리야 차와치기메 셈베 삼노디 야네 야도 섬 다야디 땅고레스 안디 땅위 토네 연신 셈젠 엔 세소를 교비하게 세달 땅야라서 봐다 안데 셴기 까마이 세 셴리야 안데 지게 셴 셈젠 쇠기 된다라 파 주유는 저기 세소로 세달 땅야로 소로 땅야서 세달 땅야라서 봐제바이나 세링보기 디네시아다 안디마세 안심제 심제 체위 강아 요바티기 바 강아레세야 안 네바르시네 네발이야 맹기톤 로버치야다 menju시네 안강아 네 네레 타와제 바다 두스치네 제바이나 만족에다 디 개와디기 차사 안 개와 치말이야 안저 안에 체령부야다 안에 덴델이야 네나자 마야에게 나뇽아요 되네기 개발
Good morning. So last night we looked at the fully ripened qualities and their functions, these 8 excellent ripening qualities. And we completely started and looked completely at those 8. And then we started to look at their causes. And we looked at, of the 8, the first, that of having a long life. So we looked there at the cause of that, which the cause for having a long and healthy life is to develop and sustain a mental attitude. Sorry, talking for the first time today, so it's all coming alive. So the cause for having a long and healthy life is to develop and maintain the determined attitude, I will not harm others. And in fact, I will be of benefit to them. And this is in particular in relation to remaining alive. So one has a determined attitude, I will not kill, but moreover, I will do what I can to prevent the untimely death of others. And the text gave illustrations of saving those who are bound for slaughter, rescuing those who may otherwise, for example, drown, and so forth, as well as helping others to maintain their life through care and support, through giving medicine and other sustenance. So in this way, and moreover, not only does one commit to not causing the death and trying to prevent the death, one even commits to working in the environment where beings live, the natural environment, in a way that's careful, so that one doesn't inadvertently cause harm to others. So this then is the cause that will lead to the fully ripened effect of having a long and healthy life.
that 저기 체력을 요하다 내나서 요야게다 유티레스 소에다 먼저 삼다벤다 먼저 다 체텔이야 아 저기 지게 내나서 요하다 나 소수게 체력보 되어버려 좀이나 아니 제사 경험하기 되네게 개위 자와 주바 임비게다 제부로지 뒤로바 되네티는 아주 경험에 자와 되네 개와 주바 임바다 하고 두보래 되네 자다 경험하래 되네게 아주게 체외 삼바빵 안삼바다 젠리아 아니 소주리아 빵야당 안젠리아 아니 지게 강아세리아 베네 체외게 체외 강아세야당 소를 교야기 되네게 난지게 제비게 긴게 되네 제부 용바인자다 다 되네게 무티제 마음반에 되네 용야토래 되도 체외는 아주 무티제 안지사 개외자와 냠는데 아니 야네 야도 누가 쳐줘야다 될래 되네 무티장 저기电商부터야电대리야 내나서 용아요야 아니 도시에 체름고야디 아니 자고로 받아 되네자 먼저게다 체폰소 봐서야 되기 나 되네게 체름고요 받아 류래 내나서 용와다 매바다 되네게 야고 좀 있나 되네 수수기电대리야 개회념네 자반데 샬리야 판도도에 개회념네 되게 야고로 제투고로 와 어디에 자디 개발 연구를 해서 되네게
The accumulation of karmic causes refers to developing a particular mental attitude. And in this life, if our life is appearing to be long and healthy, then we know I have created the causes for that in my past life, and now I'm enjoying the ripening effect. So therefore, I can say with confidence, if, for example, one's life is appearing to be quite long as well as healthy, that in past lives, I applied myself certainly not to take life, but also not to cause harm to others, and to sustain and protect life wherever I could. And now I'm enjoying that ripening effect. So therefore, the accumulation of such causes, the accumulation of the cause of long and healthy life, is something not only have I done in the past, but I therefore am capable to continue to do now. So let me commit myself to ensuring that what remains of this life, not only will I not kill, but I will do my best not to harm and to protect others who are in danger of their lives being ended untimelessly, either by being killed or by dying, let's say, through an accident or drowning. Let's try and help. And moreover, when beings are ill or they're struggling to sustain themselves, in accordance with my capacity, I will give of myself. I'll help sustain their life. I'll help ease their suffering. I will not be a burden to others.
다 되네. 당은 저기 카도 분수 소바세 이게 다 디기 규리 가래 람나다 이제 순거래 되는마 말메라 소나와당 괴서바 진바오스 셴양 초와메바 초와메라 덴바다 예신바이 수상이 차도메비 제부니 가와상보라도시 지송소스.
So that's a review of the causes that lead to the first of the excellent ripening effects. Now we come to the second. So turning to the text, in the middle of page 140. So the second is excellent complexion or physical appearance. So that we looked at last night at that ripening effect. Now we look at the cause for such a ripening effect. The second is to offer light in the form of butter lamps and so forth, and new clothing. Furthermore, it says, by relying on having no anger and offering jewelry, you will have a good physique. The result of having no jealousy is said to be good fortune.
당한 주게다 나오나를 되게 강아지고는 디세서 로제야라 소바다 디지바 차기로 로바야 요로와 나오나 되는 로바 가야고 차기로 제가 다들 컨트롤에 보여도 최면 부여 마음에 부여라기로와 다지 현달이야 로바치는 로기 로라서 빠제베는 로제베는 아직 컨트롤이 강아지 디스고라 제가다 컨트롤 마음에 부여다 마음에라 소베 나와지 봐 내는 da conjola mamela soba so mameta ne yincha soba da denige de chopuya da ma shindo la soba medola puyu giro deni mamela soba da deni odo shine puya la so deni goye sarba chimba sidida ya conjolia ane namse puya ge gusun gulia ane namse puya ane jige chöden da denelia ane di kasore ha chen de da la soba sanyi gulia shese puya la soba de namse puya chegore 지난 디네 부여디게 자상한도 카도 수야고 닝쇼고 야야게다 규리에서 월다 시시다 덴바다 기야야고 고에서바 데네 셴리야 아니지게 미션달이야 아니 지 고에게 짐바다 두로 데네게 짐바다야라 소바 디네 제베이나 인데서 아는 저기 개와 치마 아니 가서 카도 푼소 소바 야야게다 수부야고다 데레 데네 아니지 도다 덴바 야야 안 데네게 규디 데네 레사 중도
We see here that the causes that lead to having an excellent physical appearance in lives to come include making offerings such as the light from butter lamps to the 3 jewels. So this can be offerings on one shrine at home or in larger offering places such as in the stupa, but it can also involve the painting and the illumination through artistic endeavors, the illumination through artistic endeavors of tankas and statues, and also in terms of making offerings to the 3 jewels of robes and food, such as in the bowl of the Buddha. So in this way, by making offerings to the 3 jewels, one accumulates, offerings such as these, one accumulates the causes to have an excellent physical appearance in lives to come. But also, not just in relation to the 3 jewels, in relation to ordinary beings. So these days it's perhaps in our environment less common, but those who do not have electricity in their home, by helping them to gain electricity in their home. So one would be offering light. And the meaning is to help, by helping ordinary people, not just making offerings to the Buddhas, one also creates such causes, and likewise offering clothing to those in need and so forth. So not just making offerings to the field of excellent qualities, but also to ordinary beings. One creates the causes so that in future lives one has an excellent physical appearance.
That is Kevara Shivena, that is Sunda, Shenya, Choa Mela, Dembata, Gajimba, Susani, Chato maybe Japanese, Choa Mela, Dembata, said that Shenlam, Choa Meba, Sevocomba, Choa Mela, Demba, Sevocomba, in the Jezan, Subi Jibudi, daughter Demba, young resisted by University Dirwa, Jezan Choa Mela, Demba, the Shenlia, Sevocomedi, Sevocom, or yes, Sevocomedi, then Catopun Young Kuchik.
What Lama Tsongkhapa there is just a brief presentation of some of the causes to attain an excellent physical appearance. Now, through a quotation, he presents further causes by relying on having no anger. So by relying on having no anger means cultivating patience. So the cultivation of patience, or having a mind that stays undisturbed in the face of adversity, so mentally not reacting when one experiences challenges, this is a cause to have an excellent physical appearance in lives to come.
저기 추름 송야의 차기도와 류가의 예제되면 추름 송야 송야디다 체분 소보 규차로와 전에 체외 삼바의 방고를 세로와 체외 삼바 차와 지금에 세배 삼 단계도 당에도 체외 삼바 방고로와 제자다 체외 삼바 방에데 안냐 지신의 소 교별의 디스디 소 교회디 미지비 진바로와 소 교회 미지비 진바 차기로와 안 다디 델야 안에가 소리 그 마음에 부여하다 나와서 고유 부여라서 고여서 부여라서 받은 시를 진바로 와대 지수 진비다 사생이 진바로 책으로 권조를 줘 마음에 다시 넣어서 부여하다 되게 근데 지금 나와 부여 되게 그 남세 부여 안 도신 최대라 안 지게 전 사람들 구 상기 꿀이야 아니 지금 셀 도신주 부여되기 전 남제 부여자 진비 냠나 자르고와 제가 당한테 진반년을 줄을 세워 있어야 돼 냠나 시에도 디나데 가상게 체폰 소비 균알이야 진비 냠나 제다 수름 소야다 진비 냠나 제가 차기도와 나디든 마 신유도 진비 냠나 차기도와 된 초아멜라 때봐서 세비 냠나 차기도와 제자다 초아멜라 세보 공고래 샬리아 안에 디네 권철이야 최고 부고래스 아니 샬라 고여 부야라 소바다 샬리아 두시고래 순유도 다디 간젤레 도나가 저기 파이진 주게 냠내 시에도 수림 냠내다 진비 냠내다 세비 냠내 되게 송도와도 도나 디나 두도와
If we look at these first 2 ripening effects that we've looked at thus far, in terms of its causes, the excellent lifespan and now that of excellent physical appearance. So when we look at the causes for these 2 results, we see that of the one cause is ethical restraint, the determined attitude, I will not harm, and I will not harm. Certainly I will not kill, but I will also not harm. So that is a cause to have an excellent lifespan. Then add to that generosity, the generosity of giving fearlessness. So helping beings who face imminent death, rescuing from death, saving them from their death. That too is a cause to have an excellent lifespan. And then, moreover, the practice of material generosity, that of giving of medicine, but also the generosity of giving of oneself, being a carer for someone in need. This generosity is also a cause for an excellent lifespan. So there we see two causes for excellent lifespan: ethics and generosity. Now, in the second excellent quality, the fruitional effect of an excellent quality, that of an excellent physical appearance. Here we see that a cause is firstly material generosity, offering of light, offering of clothing, offering of food, and so forth. But also the third practice, that of patience, by cultivating an attitude whereby one's mind stays undisturbed in the face of adversity. One is also creating the causes to have an excellent physical appearance. So therefore, both generosity and patience are the causes for such an excellent ripening result. So we see then, thus far, in terms of the first two excellent fully ripened effects, they are the causes of ethics, generosity, and patience.
Then Chawamela Temba Sokum Gores, Dene and Genjimba Susani, Jezada, Genjimba Sita, San Yokulia, and Anzuki Denia, Gen, and Jit Puyatiki Surat, Genjiba, Taque Puya La Sobada, Denigi and the Jig, Nanzuki, Jig Chama La Sobada, Denigi. Nene usually modela soba carrot gang got proven at the neck poetic Jabana, Jezada, no so sambo toyagi, gutit chagres, Genea, Chado maybe a Jebonis, the Chado Shengi, Shen, and then Bene Legata Tungena Yabuchi, I get to win a Delia Chado Majabaji, Jesuiran Jebada. Shen giving him the Yabuchi and Jerry Chigiban, Delia Chado Majab, Jesuiran Jebana, Jeza. Shengi and Tungi Poso Sobo Drueta, let Jawalam Yoyata, and they give you what Druena, and on the Gabriel and the Chado Jang or that said the Chado Majabaje, and Delia Chisuiran Shores, Chesan Dene Chebaina, and Gawasambo, Rabdushes, and Gawachima Delia, Chikawasambo, the Ungries, Yabu Ungries, Sundua.
The verse continues, listing a further cause, a further expression of generosity as that will lead to the ripening effect of having an excellent physical appearance, namely offering jewelry to jewelry of any type. It can be a mala or of any type to a Buddha statue. So that is a further cause. As is in the third line, the result of having no jealousy is said to be good fortune, the third and fourth line. This is then a further training. We've looked then at patience, at generosity, and now that of having no jealousy. In other words, rejoicing in the good fortune of others. This is then a further imperative training to cultivate, that when one recognizes the good fortune of others, perhaps they have a healthy life, having a long life, perhaps they are attractive, whatever it may be, rather than feeling generous, rejoice that they are enjoying the results of their previous virtuous karma. Because now that we've learned what the causes are that lead to a specific result, whomever you see enjoying such a result, rejoice in their virtuous endeavors in lives previous to this, that they are now enjoying the results of. And in this way, one creates the causes to have good fortune.
Kawasambo Rabdushesa, Kawasambo said, Denisungor, Benangi, Yamama Sosugeta, Shengi, Chike, Jawa, Lagaro, Chile, Yapura, Junior, and Jelia, Beapore, Chisuirachi, Jebata, and the Kehoyam Jebalia, and the Beapore, Chisuira, Chebaina, and Jevachimantilla, Jebu, the Kawasambo Yunguri Lara, Kawasambos and Kanishlu Kugurlana, Jeza, Deniki Yama, Denichebanza, Social Bene, Sayatunga Road, Jala, Chikyorwa, Deniki, Yubena. So Mevena and the Nigi robotic Denigi Pen Kalasada, the Nigi Kalasada, and Shimbur Dulo, Din Singuvena, and Michi Samuel, oh, quite some menu, or Koki Dangore, send Uncle Ducian Getache, or Colia Diski, Shahole, Koki Dangor, call Jahore said, on Ducian, no socially at the table Mingo, that the Susuki. 개왕 마미 아니 직례가 야고를 제례 지수이라 집이 되고 차고래서 양지 개회 냠네 제바들 개회 지수이라 제바 인자 디기 되버로 몽반 베네야 양지 데네기 초초야다 개회 냠네 제 고업신 어고 처음에는 고시워서 계단에 야고 호치고래서 언두신의 티제 안 콜야 아니 지금 콜 그럼 레메나 될야 배지 샤나디 사상을 콜야 오도 고기에당 콜디 고그레스 고요 이외에 야고여서 고기에다디 용그레스 결혼 쇼스니 그 나주 초초야다 개회님 제저로와 이 개와 두개 저로와다 미지 기미디 레메나 고 민두 고 쇼스니 계당 고대 이외에 야고여서 계당에 지요로와다 어디 데네기 미샨다기 소설야 오콜야 안두시네 갱안주디 계다제 안고 개회냠네 제 고급제야다 사야동야다 데네노고 밀레메나 오콜 계당 오콜 제고르선 두시야디 regular 대세스나 가와상보 데네 고급 약보라기리에서 월다 가와상보신 데네 고급 약보라바디 개왕함에게 직 데네기 셴기 아니 자와 람로 약보 용화를 도와들이야 지수이란 제바다 개회님네 제발에 지수이란 제비기다 제부로 차고 지나디네자 지수이란 제는 제부디 용고리에 사시디셔.
Let's look a little further at the third and fourth line. The result of having no jealousy. So jealousy can be expressed very broadly. Often it can be expressed in terms of the success others are having in their various endeavors. So there could be in their work life, their personal life, whatever it may be, in a religious context or just normal, ordinary life, where others are experiencing some success, and one may give rise to jealousy towards that. So here we're being guided to rather rejoice in the good that others are encountering. Because whatever good they are experiencing is the result of virtuous endeavors, virtuous karma they have created. So you can rejoice in the causes that have led to this excellent result. And then what is the ripening effect of such positive ways of thinking? Is that one has good fortune in the future. So what then is meant by good fortune? Because it's a term we don't come across very, very often. So let's say we are quite impoverished. We don't have sufficient to eat, but our friends or our neighbors, they having a party or a feast, and they think, our friend, they are quite poor. Let me call them over. Let them partake in this feast tonight. Let them enjoy these festivities with us. So here we are experiencing some misfortune in the sense of we don't have sufficient food, but someone calls us over and helps us out. Likewise, if let's say we've arranged here a puja, and then we think, actually, so-and-so is not here. I know they would enjoy to come. Let me call them over so they too can create virtue. So this is another illustration of good fortune, where someone will call you over to partake in a virtuous endeavor. So these are kind of results that are meant by good fortune, and they come from developing a positive attitude that is expressed as not being jealous, but rather rejoicing in the success of others.
최대 요새 잠디와 지부 다에도와 지부다 띵띵서 라고지도 띵띵서 대서 지부게 차야 우체바 부위기 니기 제부 마음반에 소소 깨야 원님 보여다 된데 용거리에서 제가 되네기 깨니 보용거리에서 아니 지금 마음에 부여되게래 부위 선남디게 제부를 소소에 아니 지바세고 셈ля 아니 셈세고 용거리에서 안디나심 아니 카프로제 카프야 저로 카 여러와데 첨부지야 카비오로와 카프티 제노마가 남산 수루고로와 디나신 카프티게 두 부위니 니기 제벌 소소지 마음반에 지제바 카르티네 리번니 보용거리에서 되네기다 소소게 직골 부여들이야 제레레 부위기 그런 게 저 미라미라래시. 다 부여다야 부당의 돈에 양 대기 돈에 저 미라미라야지. 그래서 부위값이야 직 소소에 빼 장마 구십대 대비 부위나 니기 제보 야가요. 부여들이야 부여인 발라 장마시라며 와지 아니지 구십시라며 부위는 한디 부위 제보 용어된 한디 뜻이 괜다 뜻이야 되겠지. 용어 제가 되네서 당한 저기 레기 유 제보세의 차신 차와 되네에서다 즉 삼님이켜봐래. 제사다 되게 제를 푸비기 그런기 대부 미더미더리 푸이당의 턴에 안에 그 소수류가 그 제바 때문에 푸이던에 디 턴에 야다 간에서 야가 푸이나 디기다 대부도 야야야다 디샤고를 제사다 말매 푸야래 둘로 푸야래 사야도야 푸야래 디기다 대부 미러미러 용고로 와당죠. 갑자기 첨보기로 받네. 이제 갑디게 가르치시 열었으니 가와 주변에 람사 주고로 와. 되네준 람사비 이가 비투고로 갑디게. 제사당 아주 삼로다나 직제바지다 한 먹어나 갑디게 토고 있는 수두고 말와 하고 두고 수고 말와. 되네게 젠년 보면은 되네게 봐 수시 이게 비는 수고 말와. 제사 갑디도 쓰는 진짜 가와서는 남산으로 수르고 와. 이가 비두고 와. 제사 디게 쓰는 디게 안주임 삼다데 리버 삼다데 제바 리버 넘보 남사 가리나 남사 하고 투에 리버 넘보 용거래 제래. 제사 디게 제부 코로나 되는 용거래서 제사 디네 인자 아니 되는 용도가 카푸야라서 용거래.
In the presentation on karma, there are a number of cause and effect relationships that are presented, which some are quite evidently clear, others are really very hidden. So these can be harder to actually recognize for oneself, and therefore we need to take on scriptural authority. But in general, though, when occurring causes, what is imperative is the quality of one's motivation, the strength of one's virtuous attitude. This will ensure a strong ripening effect. Likewise, to the field or to whom one is engaging, this also has an impact. And then, of course, in the middle is the activity, the motivation to whom one is creating this karma in relation to, and then the activity in the middle. So to give some less evident illustrations, if one offers light, so through butter lamps and so forth, through offering light, one is creating the causes that will ripen in having a clear mind, a mind that is not dull, not foggy. So this is a ripening effect of offering light. And again, the strength of the effect depends on both, or in particular, the quality of the motivation, but also to whom one is making the offering. Another illustration is when one is using a needle. Sometimes a needle as in sewing, you know that you're just struggling to get it through the fabric. Other times it goes through quite easily. So if one is, for example, making robes for a Buddha statue, by doing so with an excellent motivation, one is through utilizing the sharp needle in relation to, for example, making robes for a Buddha statue, then one is creating the causes to have sharp intelligence in future lives. And the third illustration is where one offers sound at say, the Great Stupa here. So there is that sort of a bell outside, and ringing that with a virtuous motivation, one accumulates a virtue that ripens in having a beautiful, pleasing voice in the future. So these are some illustrations of karmic results that are, whose relationship with the karmic cause is not abundantly clear, but by doing so with a large degree of faith, with strong faith in the teachings of the Buddha, a virtuous motivation, and towards a powerful field, one will create excellent karmic causes that will have such a result.
제사 당한 주기 되니기 돈에 엔디네 용구가 바자다 되니기 지게 야 뜻 마디바나 디기드네 지금 마디바나 디기 되고야 지금 야 심해와 용구로 빼내랑 주기 지게 구로 구샹야라 소바다 되니네 아주 그런 게 샹야야 뿌이다고 인지고를 마찬가지 안지 야고라며 쪼쪼로다 지미 되게 젠디게 야고 메디게 아니 두시 차디게 아니 메디 구수디게 야고 메디게 되는 샤웨네 그런 게 지난 구수 셴베 코야 파연지 용거로 와다 용거로 와 이내 양 되니게 토네 지게 따다 마치비 토네 디 토네 코란에 제보 제마 마오바나 코란기 류리아 옹보다 되니게 제슈에디게 제보지 용거로 와다 간제레 두신 제사 구셴야 라소바나 되니게 지게 군라 지 베네가 저기 다 모디아르비 굿지야 여러분 디소네 틱도 다다차야 당 그런 천도로 직님을 녀마가듯이 디나신지 파티야라서 봐 sabza치오가 되니기 계치 모여를 수도 어디서.
So when engaging in activities, we know it's important to develop a good virtuous motivation beforehand, particularly powerful motivation to ensure an excellent result that comes. But also, whilst engaging the activity, not only should one try to keep that virtuous motivation present, but one should also take care that one is doing the virtuous deed in the best way possible. So, for example, if someone is a skilled artisan and is making, for example, a Buddha image or a Buddha statue, and they may well have a good motivation, and they are making a Buddha image. So from this, with a good motivation, a virtuous result will follow. But if they're not taking care and they end up the Buddha image being quite disfigured, that will have an impact on the ripening result. In fact, they are likely to create a mixed result with themselves ripening in themselves in the future, having a body with poor health or body with physical difficulties. So therefore, when engaging in virtue, also the action itself, take care to do it as well within one's capacity.
다디네 다직푼숨 소바세디 규디가르세나 다디순다 나게 좀네 라마라 소바당 셴라 젠더르 구버자오스 자오스.
Now, returning to the text, so the cause here for the third excellent quality, that of an excellent lineage or born into a family of high standing. The third is to overcome one's pride and, like a servant, to respect gurus and others.
제자다 신이야 소수게 나게 메바제 나게 메바 신기다 직두신에 나게 메바다 안에 라마로 소바스데 라마다 야 상jel이야 연구십지야다 랑기다 지 랑게 파마라 소바 신이야 구십지야 신윤된 신이야 배가제 구십지와 구십지 신라 젠더 구버자고 소수게다 미신달이야 소수게다 젠더스데 다 지기 요거 있나 지 거의 본부티게 내가 가르치나 그 가르치는 요거티 빼 90시 전 내가 레고로 니나시 셀야 90시에 아니 그 도시네 제오레스 제가 니네 집에 있나 아니 되게 식토모게 그 차그리에서 시들도 와다 규디티네 시그리에스 제오가 나야 메바제 나야 메바 근데 라마로 소발 저지야 아니 90시에다 셀야 아니 90시에 도시오레스.
So to create the cause to be born into a family of high standing, one should relate to those such as one's lamas, the Buddhas, one's parents, and so forth, and now the meaning of like a servant is with an attitude of respect and an attitude of service, an attitude that whatever is asked of me, I will readily do. So this use of the word servant. So we imagine servants not just in terms of attitude, but not just in terms of being doing whatever is required of them, but also with an attitude of offering service. So with such an attitude, one will challenge one's pride and in a respectful manner will help in any way one is asked to or observes is required.
지산당은 저기지 릭톰버세 디침바이나 디네민지 릭톰버게바나 가리용어선데 디엔덴 가리용어선 셴기야 랑리야 지후르지기라로 구십지기라로 지산디로다 소수기 셴리야 나게마제바제 다지 소소라마다 셴리야 구십제 베네 욕만나 신진도신 야고체베네 대체델라야 나가로와데 고체다가라 팔에 야고체베는 술에 야고체 팔에 구십제네 술에 구십제 용거로와 so bala nga ya jen guje ma je che ne sule di guje chi ma ra di ngone ngui ni so nga se da da ga ran ni 저기 팔이야 구제하고 집에는 술에 구십시야 용거로 받아 제 미지구지야 용거로 받아 팔이야 구십시 집에는 안 술에 소설에 생기야 지구지야 대 세대라 용거로 진짜 깨와 침에 되거든 되는 용거로 지구로다.
So we looked in the previous page at the ripening result. There we saw that the ripening result of being born into a family of high standing is that others will relate to you with respect. That just upon seeing you, they will, a joy will arise and respect for you will arise in their mind. So therefore, the cause has a relationship to that by relating to others in this life with a sincere attitude of respect, and together with that, an attitude of service. One is creating the causes to be treated like this in the future. But from our own lived experience, we can recognize that also one may well experience more respectful relationships with others if you show them respect. And we see this generally in society, that if one is respectful towards others, they are much more likely to be respectful in return.
세계 소 롱아라 진시 밀로양 아니 펜도바스 제자다 내내기 미거라 밀로야 펜도바다 시베르완 알레오 리와데 제자디 왕주 폰스 소바 유디디르와 제자다 세계 롱아라 진시 밀로야 펜도바다 둥아바다 연디 신라 예시 메바라 파르진바오스.
Then continuing to the fourth. So the fourth is that of excellent power. So here the causes for excellent power are to give food, clothing, and so forth to those who ask for it, as well as to benefit others without being asked, and to give to those who are suffering, as well as to those who are fields of excellent qualities, but in need of requisites.
제자다 저기 세계로서 보러원래 진바세 미션다기 교우디기에 세다 고에다 딘댕아 딘디 로버치로 체스파 두신 로이나 델리아 안에 직가신 되요니 진바다와이나 진바제바이나 디 진바다와디다 저기 원주 무슨 소비 규체거래스 아니 밀로양세 판도바다 소소말로바이네 셴리아 안에 로버치 진바 로 판도바이나 안 디수 네 디수 진바다바이나 디수야 지게 지바레 가서 원주 분수비 규칙이래서 근데 둥아와다 세대 둥아와다 연전이 신라 예지 매발라 팔진바워서 둥아와 세대 다 되네게 교보 강아 예디게 내나자게 강아 예디게 제절이야 근데 지 칼라이톤에 로버지야라서 받아되네 지게 진야라 메인라 소바 진바타야 되네게 진바 대 연전이 신에서라 연전이 신 소속에 권조스무야 최고부야다 라마라 소발야 최고부야 디멘비게 냠렌제게미 더 소속의 라마다 디니 메나야 상계다 전시선바다 디니게야 냠렌지겐 최야부시겐리야 두시네 에너지 최고부야이나 유제라 소바가르베디 푸베 디니 제바이나 푸베이나 대소하다 가소레 원주푼소비게 유레에서 오다 가젤레다 짐바타야도 최고부야들이 도와주죠.
The cause then for having excellent power or abundant resources is that of generosity. And the way generosity is presented here is quite broad, quite expansive. We see it both towards the field of excellent qualities as well as the field of suffering. We see it towards both to those who ask for our assistance as well as for when we are not asked, but we recognize we can make a positive contribution. So it's presented in a way that makes it clear that this generous attitude we need to develop within ourselves, needs to be one of a genuine giving of ourselves, not only when we are told to do so, not only when others make it clear that there is a need, not only when it's in a religious context that we know what we are supposed to do, such as making offerings to the 3 jewels and so forth, but through having developed a genuine wish to give of ourselves, we readily do so. When others reach out a hand asking for assistance, we readily give. We may give financially, we may give material goods, we may give medicine. We also, though, may give our care, our assistance, our friendship. So when asked, or even when not asked, when we see that we can be of benefit, when we can give of ourselves in some way, we readily do. And this is, as presented thus far, it's mainly in relation to the field of suffering, so ordinary people, but also then in terms of the field of excellent qualities, the three jewels, lamas, and so forth. They're making offerings and showing respect and veneration. This is also a way to create the cause to have excellent power in the future. So what it comes down to is those who are in need, to help them in any way we can, whether in accordance with our capacity, to have a decent life. Whether they ask for our assistance or not, where we can give, we should give of ourselves. And likewise, also to the field of excellent qualities, there we should make offerings, show respect, and so forth.
지사다 진비기 냠len 제바이나 다 소소게 왕주푼 소바도 용거리에서 지사다 디르와다 아주 세델 삼다베네 소소게 신리 로버지 진백에 돈 튕긴다 되니게 돈을 지 로버 제바이나 되니게 매 소소게라 에너지가 로버지 겐 디기 소소 제사디게 소소라 거부 용거로 거부지기로 소소가 왕도 뒤바 용거로 와다 지사다는 디르와 미 망고지 지소이네 변조 첨부치에는 대 흉이네 변조 첨부들이야 시우되고도 가서 디자인 라고 걸어와 지상한테 계열이네 다르와다 계열이네 변조 첨부라고 you can say 아주 시우되고 걸어와다 지사 되는 참 원도 뒤투고 거래 원도 뒤비기 귀디 다 짐바타야 돼 지사디 다디 원도 짐바타네 원도 뒤바데 가지 세델이나 되네 소소라 거부지게 망아요 소수기라 구십시아 망아 용거로와 되네자 디기다 진바타위에 대부디 개와 치마이나야 소소리야 코르 망부요야다 안 소소리 니니도 망부요야 안 소수기야 롱죄야 용아도 용거래서 진비 대부디레스 되네자다 가르쳐버 열어선다 진비 되네 코르 망부요야다 내내기 안지기 니 망보여나 가르쳐버 열어선 니기 소수게 왕도 망보 뒤어도 소수게 가르시나 인고로 년 맞아 됐을야 개위 냠는 지야야 안을 남된 제자 타바다 템지 김베티고 람 냠는 짐바 땡제 유미 바체바도 용거리 해서 개와사주야 그래서 소수게 가르셔베네 니 왕도 뒤투고나 아니 결혼 아다디 남냠내제 때는 결혼 삼을 되셔 디지지 계셔서 개회 냠내 제할 예시 베지 당투고로와 지사 비제 베네 제서 유민벌체 네 민벌체 선제 민벌체 봐 용거를 숨도 지사 민벌체네 소수게 삼로데 개화면나 개회 냠내 당투에 용거로와 지사다 개회 냠내제 어두스네 개회 냠내 야부 주투고래 바 셴리야 더 취기 진바 땅아제 셴 취기 진바 셴 개회 냠내 야 람 냠네 림발 꼬야라야 개월로 꼬야라야 판도 침부 주투고 레제레 제사 디기 원도 뒤바 진비 티보디기
Thus far, through many of the excellent ripening effects that we've covered thus far in terms of their causes, we've seen the presence of the practice of generosity. So this should really point to the importance of giving of oneself, of developing a genuine wish to give of oneself. So in the context of this particular ripening effect of excellent power for someone who aspires to the bodhisattva paths is a wonderful resource, a great resource to have, in that through this ripening effect, one has influence on others. They are open and receptive and responsive to your guidance, which means you can guide them in virtue. In particular, through the generosity of giving the Dharma, others being open and receptive and responsive to what you have to say will readily take the guidance or the teachings you are giving, cultivate it in their mind, and thereby creating the causes for lasting happiness. So this is that the goal of having these 8 excellent qualities, and generosity is one of the general key causes that leads to this. So in particular now in terms of developing excellent qualities, we can think then, So let's think from a worldly perspective, or what we can observe in this one life, is that whether we are the recipient or the generous person, we know that in that relationship where someone gives and someone receives, the relationship is often positive. In particular, where one gives or receives and it wasn't requested and it was unexpected. A deep sense of gratitude and appreciation arises. And then from the perspective of the Dharma practitioner, particularly if they are a bodhisattva, they can utilize this positive relationship they are building with someone to direct them towards virtue. Now we see this very clearly in our world, although the way we perceive it in the world is often quite negative, but we see it through the lens of what's presented here, is those who have great wealth. Their contact with them is sought out by organizations and so forth, as well as by governments. Why? Because those with great wealth tend to be those who can proportionately give far more. So if you create these causes, and in future lives, with the mind of bodhicitta manifest within, others seeking you out, wanting your not just your assistance, but they'll be keen to hear what you have to say, the positive impact you can have on others is great. So therefore, striving to develop these causes, and we see how generosity passes through them all, will enable one to have a deeply powerful impact on others, in particular through giving of the Dharma and then being receptive to your teachings.
That is settle samtabine, tapene, jibalina, gabaina, that be benjo chimbo in Yobache, benjo chimbo gidi and jibachilla that then sobachilia, roboyachi bata, gidi benjo chimbo de robachi mebena, Nini and Chisochi Sobatinale, Koniganium de Levena. That's what Mitiki Suli Kushia Chigresene, so soon Naming and Soba de Robochi in the Kushia Kushia, Chig de Sharashan, Chingmarwa. And then you have to care sometime when I denigi meet Niga Benjoya Yobache, Chig de Social Gerlena, Chig Roboyachi to get Chig Chigmevena. Down to Conium de Leven and to Kushepsul Jigas and social benjo Robert Hindley of Kushep Java Jim, Chidel Pajibaje, Nameda Jaja, Rogas Miomaro. Says Nadi Karasenem Kushep Corona, Kushep Ravati, Korongi, Jimbigi, Jimbatan, Digi Jevuchado, Digi Nubi Ongeda, Corona, Jimbatan, Coronia. 往趟了嘛，说那切了下去，真的现在的往对的那个了的，经常这个菜地里呢，的那个我是的把谁不修了的，俺的呢现在第一的给我起码呢这不的用过来才修了的。
So if we take some illustrations of this life, one can see how the impact of generosity has on one's potential to positively influence others, or to have an influence on others. So let's say two wealthy people come to the same organization at the same time. One is renowned for being generous, one is renowned for being miserly. So both of them come to the same organization at the same time. We know of those two, which one will get their attention, which one people will engage with most and want to hear what they have to say. And likewise, we can imagine this in our own personal life. If there's someone who has helped us, particularly in a time of need, and even more so without asking for it, if they helped us just through recognizing we were in need, and someone else who has capacity but didn't share it, when those two approach us, we know towards whom we will give more attention. So this is the normal workings in the world, and it shows the power or the capacity that comes from generosity. Through being a generous person, a person who gives of oneself, one builds up relationships with others. They see you or relate to you in a warm manner. They are open and receptive to what you have to say, what you have to ask. So if you think of making powerful causes in this life, how, as well as developing a motivation of bodhicitta, then in lives to come, as we experience the ripening effect of excellent power, as well as having developed a powerful virtuous motivation, the quality of impact and the capacity of the impact we have on others and the positive influence we have on others is greatly enhanced, and the fulfillment of our bodhisattva aspiration is greatly enhanced.
donda la jugi passion jugi nyamle neredo jesa da kewa chima nga jugi dine kisima sho kun kewa chima wonde ko bon towa in towa ana ju churum sungo gres ane jige kewe chime den dele ya tunyi ya bo yong ya ane jimbe nyamle jimba tang gres ane kewe chime den dele ya ane siji da denba ombo changwa yo ba dele ya sewe nyamle je gres ane che je la go yong ya ye den yo le zun zun nyamle je gres ya de ju 파신 중에 진소 중에 냠는 제나데 또 시어고래 되는 지와 치마 되는 용고래 쓰는 아주 야시야시 디고 슈디고로 제가 딘 하시리도 돼 체포소소 기와 치마 소소의 체링부제 체링부에 된 텔이야 아니 지금 내나서 마용 와다 안 되는게 야보야 된다라야 소소 아니 류가 있으면 거기 샬리야 체외스 제가 자와 지금에 선배 수림송야다 수림송야듯이 되네 아니 생기 체소로 교야기 아니 미직비지마 미지비치마 다야디 제자바이나 나게와치마 덴델이야 세릉부 차야다 안에 지 덴델라 내나서 야고 마야야기 인규디 다데티레 사시 디스고도와 디제 데네 나게웨니 치메 덴델이야 안에 카도폰소 소바디 용고에디 가르스네 안델이야 안지게 양진배님네 야 권조게 상 권조리야 안에 지 남제 부야다 셰세 부야라서 바다 데네 최된리야 안에 지 데네게 chen puya la soba da denegi jewa ina ane jige ndoshine ane jige chime puwa maime la so puya la soba dene jewa ina ane goye saba puya la soba dene jimbe gajele jimbe nyamne jewa ina jewa chime dendele ya ane doshine ane susuge sewakom doshewa ina da ane kadopun soba yana gyudi doshewa sewakom yare ane konjoda denegi shenliya denegi jimbataya de goyeda maimela soba denegi jimbataya de jebe nyamne jebe ina ane kadopun soba de yungri esaji na ane rikpun soba de karesene sosuge ngaya meba je shenliya guishepje larange lama la soba pama la soba guishep denbe dene je dusine sosu yokbo nashin je shibi shube ina ane rikpun soba yungri jeza rikpun soba yungaliya dusjene je gores 다야 ngānsuki wāngchū pōnsu sōpa yuwa ane ngānsuki jimbe nyamne che khore, jimbe nyamne che bayi na mi lōngwa ina pa kāshiong kubi wane jimba ta, tenegi mi lōngwa mea daya sōsuki pa ane shianle jimbe nyamne ta, jimba che, jimba ane jik ne nasa ta kāngā yuwen tishkili ya jimba ta ya re, yang jik shing guancho li ya chobu puya la sōpa du che khore, din che bayi na ane kāso re, wāngchū pōnsu sōpa di yunggore esaji, tā yudhige dūs jinche khore esaji, tā ngāche dōndurā ngāchuki nyamne che tā di jimba tā tsūchen tā sūpi pāi di nyamne che tā sūnggō rwa tā.
In the many teachings you've received over the years, you would have been encouraged to engage in the 6 perfections, and you would have, as part of that encouragement, you would have not just been explained what the practices are and how to engage in them, but why to do so. What are the karmic ripening results? So you will know that the cultivation of ethical restraint is the cause that leads to rebirth in the fortunate migration, the high realms. So ethical restraint is indispensable. Likewise, you would have heard that in terms of generosity, in particular material generosity, this is what ensures that one has an abundance of resources in lives to come. And patience, you would have heard that patience has ripening effect of one's sense powers being complete and having an appealing and attractive physical appearance. And likewise, you would have heard that the karmic ripening effect of enthusiastic perseverance is that one is naturally virtuous and seeks out the Dharma and takes pleasure in engaging the Dharma. So this you've heard many times. What you are coming across now in this presentation is the source material for what you have heard so many times. When we take these causes that we've covered thus far, that the causes for excellent lifespan, excellent physical appearance, a family of high standing, and now that of possessing great power, excellent power, we see that it comes down largely to some of these perfections, as well as challenging others or overcoming other afflictions. So, for example, the practice of ethical restraint, the determination not only not to kill, but also not to cause harm, and accompanying this, you could say, taking care. So this is referring to the first one, that of excellent lifespan, taking care in our movements so as not to inadvertently kill or harm. This practice of ethical restraint leads to having an excellent lifespan. And that is accompanied by generosity of giving, of helping those who are ill. This can be as a carer, as a friend, as a support for those who are experiencing physical, perhaps mental distress, as well as the material generosity of giving medicine to those in need. And likewise, we see, so this is all in terms of the causes created for excellent lifespan. Then when we think of excellent complexion or physical appearance, there we saw expressions of generosity, such as giving of light and so forth, but also, and in particular, the practice of patience. By cultivating a mind that stays undisturbed, no matter what others are saying or doing towards us, or our own inner turmoil, having a mind that stays undisturbed, in other words, cultivation of patience, one accumulates the causes to have an attractive physical appearance. And likewise, in terms of being born into a family of high standing or an excellent lineage, here this was primarily presented as to challenge one of the root afflictions, that of pride. So here one is encouraged to develop an attitude of genuine humility, so as to challenge one's pride and arrogance. This should at the very least be towards those who bring the greatest benefit into one's life. So one thinks of the Buddhists, the three jewels, one's parents, and so forth. But ideally, one should train in relation towards all beings, that we challenge our pride and arrogance towards them, that we don't allow ourselves to feel better than others because of the good things we perhaps have in our life or the good qualities we observe in our personality. We don't allow ourselves to feel better than others in any way. So we challenge our pride and arrogance and develop an attitude of someone who has genuine humility and respect for others and wants to help and serve wherever one can. And likewise, in terms of excellent power here, we see there the causes also include that of generosity, of giving. And here, generosity we should always relate to not just through material generosity, which is what often comes to mind, but we should, whilst giving materially, give with the generosity of fearlessness. We saw this in relation to excellent lifespan. And we should also give the generosity of giving the Dharma. And if we don't have the opportunity or the skill yet in this life, to hold this as a sincere aspiration. Because in terms of the very purpose of striving to develop these fully ripened excellent qualities, these 8, is so that we have the greatest capacity possible to help others gain freedom from suffering. This is the very purpose. And whilst right now our capacity may be quite limited in terms of guiding others, by having the determination to develop the skills to be able to do so, and striving to do so, that lifetime will come. And that lifetime may well then be marked by having these 8 fully ripened, excellent qualities. So therefore, I encourage you to engage in these practices of challenging one's pride, of patience, of ethics, and in particular of generosity, which you see the generosity, how generosity stretches throughout these the causes for these excellent qualities. And here in particular, you think of generosity towards the field of excellent qualities. So we had illustrations of offering robes, offering food, and offering light. as well as offering to the field of suffering to ordinary beings, to helping them, again, in similar ways, helping those who are destitute, helping those who are in need of education to make that affordable, helping those who are ill to have access to medication, and so forth. But also giving of oneself, being a friend to others, giving one's time, giving one's companionship. And in these ways, one cultivates these practices you've heard about so many times: ethics, generosity, patience, enthusiastic perseverance, helping others and creating the causes powered by your virtuous motivation to achieve these fully ripened excellent qualities in lives to come. Now the text comes us to the fifth, which is that of respected words, or excellent, respected words. The fifth is to cultivate the habit of abandoning the four non-virtues of speech. So this we covered a little while ago, the four non-virtues of speech, when we're looking at the 10 non-virtues. So not to lie, not to engage in harsh speech, not to engage in divisive speech, or speech with no particular purpose. So here, one watches one's motivation, watches what one's saying and how one is saying it, to ensure that one does not lie or speak harshly to or about others, or divisive in a way that is divisive or for no particular purpose. Then the sixth, renowned for being powerful. The sixth is to make aspirational prayers, to accomplish all kinds of excellent qualities in future lives, and to make offerings to the three jewels, one's parents, Shravakas or heroes, and Pratyeka Buddhas, solitary realizers, abbots, masters, and gurus.
Nara Kemboda Lobas the Rangi Lama down, Kemboda Lobalaya Chebopuya Losoba, and the Chopuyare, that is Chopuya, and the Membigation, that ran the mission, the Shelia, Yamdaba, Gangayo, the Desulia, and the Jike Jimbataya, and the Dushi Michimbolong and the Chelia Jimbataya Losoba, to share together, want you put Soboya, give you the water.
So here we see the causes that will lead to the ripening result of renown for being powerful is the expression of a generous spirit. So making offerings to, for example, the three jewels, as well as helping one's parents. And this can be, of course, in a wide variety of ways. So helping them as they age, helping them as they age, and in terms of helping making offerings to other practitioners, and of all classes, so the Shravakas, Pratyeka Buddhas, as well as bodhisattvas, and then those that one encounters directly, such as one's abbots, masters, and gurus. So making offerings, being generous in spirit, expressing one's generous spirit towards these great beings, or to these beings.
Ganjana Duro, Dina, that Karsuvina, Chobu Jimbatang said again, and the Jimbiniam and Nacharugua, and the Zebocum said Suvinium and Nachagua, and the Jiggy Seso Kyoviality or City, and the Michipi Chagua, and the Surum Sungores, Nijitim Casalungai, Nagi, Surum Soyala Sobadi, change Jordan, Shalanube, Samba Chigme Son, so I did Surum Soya Chagua, Sinador Dunan, the Yamne Chazan Dina Carios, Jimbiniam, Surium, Suviniam. 디나데 다데 냠네 제나 숨이나 디숨마도 디송수아딘 나네 뒤로도 디나 샹야리도 하다 송다로 따지레레레진 디 천시레레 송제미 송다 미라마도 된고마라 진배 냠네 제다 수림 냠네 제 쇠배 냠네 제다 제도와.
Part of the purpose of this presentation is to give the sources or give meaning to the general presentation you have heard many times, such as the need for ethics, the need for generosity, the need for patience, and so forth. Because we see running throughout these the causes for the fully ripened effects, we see particular generosity, as well as ethics, patience, humility, and so forth. Take that of ethics. So here we see this is very closely linked to the first quality of having an excellent lifespan. And that, through the presentation, we see is mainly in relation to taking care of our physical behavior. But we see then in terms of the fifth, to have respected words. This also is an expression of ethics in relation to one's speech, taking care with one's speech. And then generosity runs throughout all of them. The material generosity towards the field of excellent qualities, towards the field of benefit, the field of suffering. So giving of oneself through material expression, as well as giving fearlessness. We saw this in relation to an excellent lifespan. And then giving of the Dharma. And this, though, we may have the opportunity in this life, but if not, we hold this as an aspiration. So again, a key point of this presentation is to encourage us to cultivate these qualities of ethics, generosity, patience, and so forth within.
Nimiso talas, Bimiki Lu Deba Nam Dumba Doba Tang, Powon Jeba number Nam Tarber Jebos.
That brings us then to the seventh, that of male birth. The seventh is to rejoice in the excellent qualities of being a man, to see the disadvantages of being a woman and not rejoice in them, to oppose the inclinations of those who wish to be born as a female, and to rescue those who are to be castrated.
Bimela Migawada, Yemisuta Wores, and Bime Yulula, Dumbotike, Gawore, Dogores, Gawores, and that poor Umbo, Jebeke, Denig Jawadike, Padelia, Tarbache or Tarbige, Sungupche Wores, or Dijevena, Denijevena, and Gawachima Poke, Gusagore.
The first point that's not mentioned, but is crucial, is that to be born as a human, whether male or female, ethical restraint is indispensable. It is the cause to gain a higher rebirth as a human, whether male or female. And if one has the wish to be born as a male, then those specific causes are mentioned here. Rejoice in the excellent qualities of being a man, to see the disadvantages of being a woman and not rejoice in them, to impose the inclinations of those who wish to be born as a female, and to rescue those who are to be castrated.
And Denigi and the Jig Soso Jibu Duce, Yamne Javan, the Jibu Duvale Party Yunguri said, Denigi Yundendige, some or the Denigi Juna Yahudu Sempegate, Jebale Dene Yunden, the Yahudu Sempege, some time, they give you the Lagawa said, that do sin several. Then that did I didn't begin, that gave you to Mama courses Yunde Yoruba, or do some dash, Desolia, and the pair what is and Bikawa Jevada, and Denishevena, that give you the Kawasa Chagore.
Then, as we saw last night when we looked at the function or the purpose of each of these excellent qualities, we saw there that the function or purpose of a male rebirth is that you're not afraid in a crowd, nothing prevents you from traveling together with anyone else or from living in seclusion. So if one hears those qualities and thinks, yes, these would be beneficial to cultivate in the Dharma, I want to be reborn as a male, then here we have the causes that are required for such a rebirth.
Adene bimela migawa da nyemisa ta ore se da den chikti ko yan yan bimeti chik lamsa de han o da pe du jare some samla yan nga chimbo le tu.
So as I pointed out last night, and also when I touched on this last time, there is the grave danger when one comes across a presentation like this, that one will read into it that there's a disparagement of a female rebirth.
Bimela migawa da nyemita ore se di jang zu migawa se bime pe chikawu kine ma je bime se du jare san samda di mare. Bimela migawa se da ane nyemita ore se bime pe du jare se da pe chiki deniki dusin kyen da ore se di shi go mare. Bimela migawa se bimela gobuchi go mare. Bimela pe kyen da ore nyemita ore se pe de la go mare da zu chi di do chi go de donda di la go mare.
So this is not the case. One should not read into a presentation such as this, which is so clearly mentioning the causes and the benefits of a male rebirth, as therefore stating or implying that a female rebirth or women are flawed. It should not lead to a misunderstanding that one should distance oneself from women or see women as being lower or lesser.
Dan chike bimela kanga rikchi yorwa kanga rikchi chike yungorwa dini samdaje nga maomba na dini bimela chike sonta te yagoyang samaresim be diga wari mga wase dire soso rana maomba na dini ki bimela kanga dini duwa disa nga dini ki bimela chasomata kanga dini yungsare sembe samdaje mga wase dire dini ki mga wase dire ane soso ki dini ki bimela ki ta kanga ki rikchi kanga rikti pa samtaje dan denigi kanga ri samtaje adanga maobana denish kesun bumel kesun bumel kanga shuchi deni kanga do kanga dinga nyongo chisoro dedi yagumindo asembe samtaje dadi di migawas bumel denigi migawas keche di samtawe thone migawas ya nyemi sutta sede chisande bumel kewana kanga rikchi yorwada de kanga deni do kanga bumel ken deni kanga chik do asembe samtaje da bumesu nyemi sta se di mado chida bumel pe dukjare gyene di samtaje mare chida bumel ya ebe kanga rikchi yongorwada kechi chiyor an di samtaje odi bumel kewan deni ke kanga do adi kanga deni nyonga deni yongdo asembe samtaje 제가 데니기 삼다베나 부메레 미가와다 부메레 니미스타와세 데니시고 그래 제가다 부메레 강아 디네디네도 디네딘도와 셈베게 강아지 삼다 타카마 삼다데 타강아 딜 미디고원자 소소 아마 호바나가 데니기 부메레 차스데 강아 디니 셰사르데 디네디 마케와니 야사레 셈베 삼다셔와 제가 부메레 미가와다 아니 니미스타와세 삼다나 데니시마도 부메세데 야고 말에 두지아레스 티셈 말에
So to talk a bit more about the word translated as disadvantages. So it's a good translation because what it is referring to is not the faults or the flaws of being a woman, but it's, for example, what we saw in terms of the other side, the purpose of a male rebirth. It's just if one sees that the purpose of the male rebirth as advantageous, then one would be looking at the disadvantages of being a woman. So it's not about that a woman is negative, being a woman is negative, or women are flawed or lesser. That would be going way too far. But there are particular challenges of female rebirth in general, and seeing those challenges and thinking, my life is easier without them, and therefore one gives rise to a wish in the future, in future lives, to rather be born as a male. Then one would cultivate these causes. So just to be clear, what's translated well as disadvantages is not saying that women are lesser or women are flawed, but rather the particular challenges that in general accompany a female birth.
ene bumela karyorasne misi kevarat karyorasne kebal meba bumela kije karasne desna jole buchade daugu rile bude jonale nyayada dene nyawe kableya benji khalasaya na jikbe zemgoya sabsab jegoya pauzo joya na sabsab jegoya dene ge be chiuji sabsab jegoya da dene ge lega rosmasona de kebal yo marwa de pala yo marwa de yo marwa de di bumele ki misigi da lega chagorwa 아니 지금 부 이게 사회내 다도 심주치 다도자 제가 되니게 삼다바이나 제가다 어다디 부메를 약간가 되니도 부부치 차용도 다오고 스칼라 잼고야다 파조 줘야지 잼재야 잼고 빼지 강아 두어 삼다 되니를 미가 왔어요 되니를 미가 와 녀바 균세 녀바서 균 되니시 니 강아 되니 용도 와서 되니 두어서 삼다다 개발 매와티 부메를 딘두아다 되니다 되니게 가지 제대 되니 제대가 지투사 말했으면 삼로 용구로 와 진짜 되니 삼다야지 나 부메를 미가 와다 아니 님에서 다와서 되니시 고걸 근데 디멤베야 계셔šan다 용구로 와다 부메를 개발 매되게 부메를 되니게 강아 유티가 용구로 와지네 다들 약보시경마다 이 가르쳐서는 부메를 강아스나다 레갈 마선에 가르쳐서는 부 차에도 다와 고rin이야 수벌제도 아니지 칼라라 간주만 소소 사임되면 가서 차상 사임에도 칼라라 시우 zem고에 삽삽지오가 부를 느그래 삼제 배 삽삽지오가다 양 파수 줘야다 되네 제모이네 간주마지 맞제바지 삽삽지 줘야돼 삽삽 부를 느그래 셈배 삽삽지오가지 레가로스 마선에 다 부메를 레가 태워와 제가 되니게 차네 오다디 강아 되네도 교연도디 부메를 끼네 부되네 되네 야 되네 레가 먹고도 강아도 왔으면게 다 막아와시 삼면 되니게 되어매바다 소소기 디제야 되면 데라 막아와서 그러 되니게 제대 매바다 아니 두심사다 데 미가와다 님스다 와서야 돼 되니시고 모르와다 님스다 해야 돼 불에 메디엄 부메를 레갈 마선에 망고 되니게 제치 레가 망고다 소소 제모제나 가주말 제야 고급라기면도 칼라가로 사임되나 칼라사야 고급라기면도 안지 배지 삽삽 시우 제고도 안지 되니게 삼다이도 되니게 강아도와 되니게 예발 삼다 제사당 나 먹어보다 되니게 낀다 되니게 제투사 말했으면 삼다이도 땡기 부메라 막아서 지시고래
So when one thinks or reflects on the apparent or clear differences between a man and a woman, one will think of the unique responsibility that befalls only the mother at the time of pregnancy, at the time of pregnancy as well as then straight after with childbirth. So for a man, for a husband, a man, when their partner is pregnant, his life doesn't change radically. But for the mother, from the moment she knows that she is pregnant, her life does change radically. She'll make a change to her diet. She'll make a change to her movement. And depending on what lifestyle she has, she may have to make radical changes because she may, if she's a sports person, this may not at all be suitable now with the responsibility of carrying a child within. And then, of course, when the child is born, that the responsibility of the mother remains very close to the child. The child is particularly reliant on the mother, and the bond they develop is very strong. So one can then, being aware of this difference, one can look at that unique situation to women and think to yourself, this is something I'd want to have, or something I'd rather not have. And in this way, this can be a motivation to wanting to either have a female or male rebirth.
Dinege samda jeza bumegi lule mideba nam ane lule deba nam dimba doba side jeza da maomba na susu bumele kegi dimba mebas Diniki Meva sometimes, Deva Meva, Dumba Topasi, or Bumil, Mado, Bumil, Go Mevadi, Dorsigo Marad. She did Labna to go Marcas and nearly a kind of person, Pamata, Susugidia, and Jimbata, or Gushep Jewers and Jewers, Yawachewers, Sonsarva. Yawa check your Marsedi, Gawa check the Marwa. Chesan Bumela, Deva Meva city, Bumig Lula, Deva Nam. And Dumba dog or a city, so I didn't in the Gisama didn't make your show said sometimes the Chagore, the Dumba Tobasius, Mado, Bumela, Kawumaje, Bumbala, Bumela, Sosu Kawi, but Dumbati Part or a Dilago Mare. Sidan the Govuchi or was Sosa Pamala Kawu, Sosa Punya Bumela Kawu, Sosa Satala Kawuja, the Yungurwa, and DJ Chehora, Cesada Sosa Sulina, the Kawutsewa Chewada, Jamzi Chewadi, on to get. Chabachi change Jebala, Semje Sulina, Jamze Chehode, Jehors Lapcha Dirwa. The daddy there, Lula Midiva City, so some more, but I didn't Kintan, I think, Kia the Duvame said, sometime there. Mikey or Shaw says sometime there.
So what I'm giving here is an illustration of what we see in the text, to see the disadvantages of being a woman and not rejoicing in them. So if one looks at the role of being a mother, and looks at that and thinks, this is something I would rather not have, then one will be seeing that as a disadvantage. So that's just an illustration of a disadvantage of the female body. But whilst it feels a little strange to be talking so explicitly like this, we need to cover it because it's in the text. But again, I want to emphasize, this doesn't imply lesser, that the female birth or women are lesser or lower or anything like that. We saw a couple of lines above that the encouragement to make offerings to our parents. It doesn't say to our fathers, it says to our parents, implying both. So we should, and nowhere in the teachings is it presented that we should not be close to women. Of course, we should be close to our mothers, to our female relatives, to our friends, the women in our lives. So this should not be misinterpreted as women are seen to be seen as lesser.
Bume chaya la go bume meba, Rani bume chaya ki dumbatiki doho is or Din doba in so rana bume chaya doba meba, then bume chaya doba meba, dumba doba in and the bume kiwa lemba la go, that has the chagore.
So I've covered this presentation now, last night, and when we were together a fortnight ago. So hopefully through covering it 3 times, the intent is clear that this is not a sexist presentation, although it is only covering one side. And how it should be understood is for those who wish to be reborn as a male, these are the causes to accumulate so as to be reborn as a male. And then what we saw on the previous page was that the particular quality or not quality function of a male rebirth was as mentioned in the previous section.
That does all bumilki or Divachagua. She's a cable like Deva Mena, and the garson like Kibiki, Dianju and Yankoran to Chiku and did a casa casore. Bumigi and the la Ka, Bumigi and la Kawata, and the Chige or Casore, Gawa, Bumil. Kibi yundala migawache, kibi yundala migawada, and then Yemisutaya, and then Kibi Lula, Dova Meva Kiedi, that the Bumilki 규차로와 제가 디네 인자다 개발을 지지발다 디제 개발 연대를 미가 왔을 야 개비 연대 네 지금 야 지금 지금으로와 가서래 개발을 미가 왔을 때 개비기 교행기 차대 통하지는 개발계는 디하고문다 디디 없나서베 나 개발을 개한다다 디네 강아디 디네 디셔고다디 나 개발을 개도 되어면 선배 삼다들이다 이 다음에는 아직 부밀게 규사 차거리네.
And the skilled way that one would read this is if one has looked at the general differences between a male and female rebirth and thought to oneself, I'd much rather be reborn as a woman in future lives, and one will have a list that's the opposite of what we saw on the previous page, in terms of a list of the various benefits of being born as a woman. Then one would read the causes here in the opposite way. So one would rejoice in the excellent qualities of being a woman, or born as a woman, to see the disadvantages of being a man and not rejoice in them, to oppose the inclinations of those, and so forth. So one would just read this in the opposite way, so as to generate the causes for rebirth as a woman.
Ini bimeda kebi yendela kashi ka sablaya bime yendela kawa. Zirwada bime yendela samdabena da bime sede jige jidan ji chane jige da zemil nalaya mi pege doya dige de jisan chue nyamlen ji hen jige chue jege nyamlen ji chue simjen tamje sanje gobang towala mirke walen gore. Mirke walen je chue nyamlen ji mirke walen bala ne bume ko gorma bume mena mirke walen to ya merwa jeza dusum ne bume da bume la tene andu mirke walen ya ko gobra gdwa jeza de bume ge mi buye bu tene ba bu de be ji mene lulu yede kaplan be ji bu ya jamba dan zewi tone dus jingyo ji de jamje nyamlen shi wu yongdo was ji nyamje do was 나도 부게 차바이네 아메기 부베 차롱지 파야 첨부 마차파 따도지 배 잠제 쉬우지 다 파마 마셔야 될 잠제 냠네 쉬우시 용구도 되네 이제 제자디 부게 부고 톤다 마이 삼로 야고 따바네 디 톤에 마게 아니 최제 냠네 따도시 냠네 제도 고갑 야고 쉬우도 샹레 판도 주에게 만하신 고갑 야고 민도 마데비 쉬우지 케시도 선배 되네 삼다이도 매기 연달아 가와게 제가 당 하이네 뭐바는 마디 되네 시지 원래는 네 판도 제도는 야고서를 선배 삼다이도 되네 개발진의 디나시지 민도 제가 말을 캐셔 되네도 삼다이도 안 되네게 토네 삼다이도 어도 마게게 되와 되게 듬바게 용으로 와 게요도 다 뭐바나 부메게 듬발이고 제가 디차이 되네 차이도다 부메게 알림비게 주디 다 지당 추름순 거에 맞제 추름순 왜 디가리아 되네 삼다이나 추름순에 디 미게 알림 받지 다 개발계단 부메게서 소수게 되와 삼다이나 두시는 삼다이나 디니게 부메르게 규사고를 해서 책으로 와.
If one has the wish to benefit all beings, if one has the wish to guide beings to attain enlightenment as well as to achieve it oneself, then it's imperative that one has a human rebirth. And in order to be reborn as a human, one necessarily needs to be reborn from a woman. So therefore women are obviously required. And if one is wanting to continue on spiritual development continuing to be of benefit to others, one may, on analysis, think, I'd rather do this in the body of a woman and with the various particular or general characteristics or general qualities of a woman. So one may then generate the determined attitude to be born as a woman, create the causes as presented here. Thinking, for example, that as a woman, I will be able to bring bring babies into this world. And this is a way that I'd like to contribute so that I could bring children into this world and have a direct positive influence on them when they are at their youngest, most impressionable age, and guide them to create the causes for their own excellent ongoing rebirths through cultivating ethical restraint. Because again, whether one for oneself or for others has the wish to gain an excellent rebirth, whether male or female, The cause is the same, ethical restraint. This is the indispensable cause for rebirth as a human being. So therefore, for oneself, as well as through the guidance that one may give others, such as children, that is of ethics is indispensable.
제바 남 타브라 제바 오세대만 저기 다 심체 포디게 아니 지고 부마게 쇠게 되네 옹보제야라서 봐 옹보 지게 옹보제네 매바쇠야라서 봐 책으로와 데솔이야 송급제 되네게 타브라 제바이나 아니 포게 규세고래 제래 지난 나싱아서 머리네 다야 뭐 부고게 매바쇠야디 용구로와 데니게 매바 데니게 뭐 옹보제야리야 아니 지 타브라 제바이네 뭐게 규로지 And
the final point here is, and to rescue those who are to be castrated. So this is then presented as a cause for male rebirth. And then the opposite would be the cause for female rebirth, to rescue those from being, I think it's sterilized. That would be a cause for female rebirth. What it comes down to is those who preventing those who would otherwise want to have children from having children. Now we come to the eighth excellent quality, that of strength. The eighth is to accomplish, and I've just added one word. The eighth is to accomplish what others are completely unable to do, to help them do what they can accomplish with your assistance, and to give food and drink to others.
제네 제바이나 제투바이 제바이 로 제바이나 안데데 돕다데 비규샤게서 베니셴기 다 셴지리 로봇이 진발라서 받은 로봇이 두면은 소수기 딩 제투 제바이나 제바이나데 돕다데바 아니야 안지 베네 셈젤라서 최소 교회알이야 셴기 제마도 받은 소수기 제투 제바이나 안데 돕다데바 차야 안지 랑기 제야다 다 랑기 지구제 마투바이나 라다 셴념도 루룹제네 제바이나 단 라다 돈베세오라 라다 돈베 라다 셴다 념도 소소 지구제 셴다 지구제 마도바제 소소 지구제베네 제투메나 소소 차상게 념도 루룹제제 도시네 제바이나 니가소레 데네게 로봇 제바이나 벤데네게 강아세야게 맨지야데 맨주지야라서 바다 세솔로 교야라서 바드네 소수게다 메모보님도 로봇 제제도 제야 연구로와 데네게 뉴발라 로제바이나 데네게 로제야다 사동 데와사야다 동알라서 바다 제바이나 다디 원주 분소고 규차이레사데 디디리도
So just reading again, the eighth is to accomplish what others are completely unable to do. So this would, illustrations would be, if there is need and others around you are not able to help, but you can, do so. Don't be restrained because others can't help and think, therefore I shouldn't either. Do so. So if a being's life is in danger and others have no idea or they don't have the skill or capacity to help, and you can, do so. If others have need and those around you don't have capacity to help ease their need, do so. Or if someone needs friendship, companionship, and those around you lack the time or the will to do it, be the friend for the person. Help where others cannot. Then it continues, to help them do what they can accomplish with your assistance. So here this then would refer to helping communally. So if you can, as part of a charity or a community, to help others, then do so. And in this way, this is particularly useful to encourage others to also give of themselves, to give, whether, as the text ends with, to give food and drink to others, or to help in other ways. So to give without, in the first case, without needing encouragement from others or the support of others, to give where one can, or in the second case, where one as a community does so, and thereby also encourage others in that community or that charity to do so.
Kebi Yundela Kashin Bumela Migawa Sada, Nimis Tawari Sada, Bumigulu Deva, Dumbato Koreasiki, sometime that 60 ton do, or the Bumela Chige Kawachi Yomare, Bumela Yun Tawari, Bumelia Badges, Dumbati Doja, same Taran, which was Goyagi, 6 sometime, Dunda some Mataji, 60 sometime, the Nego go to Goyagi, Yanga, some Diniki, Chambudua, Dinizadaji. To say the Geva Chichewa did it, and the Geva Ni, Kasan de Geva Nami, Geva Ni, Gua said again, Danda Kasan Jeshikawa Tisha did it. So that Mahobana and Shandagi, or that Lamrim Nalia, the Nesonshadi, did do that bad Duja Sundua Sibika, that the Negi Yomba Siva Marua, the sea tornado. And just that Dineza, like Yonazuki, did Dunda the Hakuache, Mahomba the Nechuman, did on that did Mare, the Nidin said, the shake up to Gadi, Bay Yachimbo, Daddy, and the Chisolia, the Chiki Dunda, the Awamashing Tigre Tornado, Lamsa, and the Tigre Samdaje, and the Chilamsa, Genjiada, Good Tipchiada, the Mambuji, the Nigi, Dunda, the Ramatuvitone, was a Gama, Yota Monkudigo. Just that Dinisa and Delhi, this would dedicate the Shikavati, Donati, you're assembling ever chair down, Mohobana, the Nigi millionaire, the Nigiton, the Shikadi, 16 the sooner, this would not DJ said, Jeshikap to Adi, Begachmachagres Mudu.
That concludes looking at the causes for these 8 fully ripened effects. So, of these 8, over this morning, last night, and then the final session last time, I've spent quite a lot of time on that, the 7th, male rebirth. And I've spent maybe you could say a disproportionate amount of time on that one particular cause because of the grave danger of someone reading the page and taking from that a meaning that is not intended, namely that women are perceived as lesser, as inferior. So I hope through my 3 explanations, as well as for you, from your general encounter with the Dharma, you know that that is not the intended meaning. So hence, I've spent really a disproportionate amount of time on this one point because it's important. Because if someone encounters the Dharma, if they have created the causes to encounter the Dharma, they've created the causes to meet something that can have a transformative impact on their mind, on their happiness, in this life and lives to come. So by misunderstanding a point such as this, and it can lead to one closing the door on one's own spiritual development, on one's own progression towards freedom from suffering. And that would be a grave loss, in particular, because it comes from a literal interpretation, an interpretation that doesn't come from understanding the meaning. But then furthermore, a point to take in general is that we should refrain from jumping to conclusions. So not just talking about this point, but really talking in general. We should refrain from jumping to conclusions, but rather seek out a deeper understanding. And when we've come to an understanding, naturally, we'll come to conclusions. But even when we come to a conclusion based on understanding, still keep your mind open. Because as one gathers more knowledge, a previously settled viewpoint may well be challenged. And one may come to think, oh, something I understood, actually I now understand it better and I was mistaken before. So therefore, in general, gather knowledge before coming to a conclusion. Even when one comes to a conclusion, don't grasp at it too tightly. Keep your mind open and spacious. And as one gathers ever deeper understanding, let go of prior misunderstandings.
Siktinere Yungore, Chizandine Kashida, Geshe Chimbodi, Jiki Bumela Tonjo Tangore, said in the Yungore Sigdua, the Nakashi, Yungore Sigdua, Chizandine, Nesudi, Tata Hamo, the 60 Tonje, Chizan Gunji, the 60 Ton, the other did love what did Sigdua, said in Gunji, or Sagduan, Chizandiniki, Donati, 아고가 되 게치 뭐셔고래. 지나 된다래 직디 균지 제베네 디니엘이야 지게 미술이네 지게 잠바 공부래 제와 공부래 상보치고래 아니 구십지고래 지 나야지 차도지 구십지고래 상보지 야보지고래 해서다 되네기 마모송으로와 제자다 잠니 조금비도 랑게 마나 심전 탐저랑게 마나지를 마디베 잠지 그딘 첨부지를 마나지 그리지 뭐 연된 주주로와 제자다 되네 연된 주게 미지기 안에 비멜이야 야고요 말 가우지기 말 되네 송신해요 말바다 그 제자디 직 녀마 야고지고를 시 제리야 야고지기 말 되네 시시 용말바다 제자디 돈다 호론이 용야 호로 요 말에 제자디 베지디 공화 차상 공마도 오마나 가르게 차상 두시네 디니 소이도 다 디기 거 돈다디 간내질 숨고도 간내질 삼당고도 집에 다 디네기 돈다디 하고 가야돼 게치 머리마도 셴 디네기 차상니수야 차상 하모가 치 통해도 어디 디네기 이제 시야라 dum데 오쇼 차기도 진짜 디네 진짜 디 게치 머리 장이디 야네한테 지 시와야돼 디리.
This is important for that each of you have a clear understanding of what is meant by this presentation here. We're talking about the excellent qualities of a male rebirth. It's important you understand this, not just so that you don't have an obstacle in your own spiritual journey, but in terms of fulfilling your responsibilities in society. People may well quote to you something that they've read, perhaps online they came across a quotation, like for example, in the Shantideva's Bodhisattva's way of life. There are presentations or verses expressing a similar sentiment. So now, understanding the meaning behind that and the context within it was composed, as mentioned last night, then you'll be able to respond to others. Moreover, many of you have been engaged in the Dharma for quite some years. So you have a far broader understanding of the Dharma in general than someone who's new. So you will know that a presentation that is overtly sexist seems very strange in the Dharma. It will stand out from the page and should lead one to naturally be inquisitive. What that seems out of place in the Dharma? What can it possibly mean? And then investigate. So this puts you in a good position not to close the door on the transformative impact the Dharma can have, but to rather inquire. And in particular, because you would have heard so many teachings on the need to develop a loving and compassionate relationship in relation to all. Nowhere have you ever heard that you should have a loving and compassionate relationship towards some. Yes, never. No, and likewise, and we had it today, to develop an attitude of humility towards others. That's one of the causes. It wasn't said, be humble towards one sex and not the other. See yourself as superior to one sex and the other sex as inferior to you. This is not presented anywhere. So this cannot be the meaning. And what is most commonly presented is in terms of the development of bodhicitta, we recall the kindness of our mothers. So when we look at the entire presentation of the Dharma, it's very clear. There is no capacity, or there is no presentation of some are superior to others. We are to hold all as dear. And if one understands the Dharma well, then when one comes across quotations such as from Shantideva or here from Lama Tsongkhapa, one is not going to easily fall into a wrong view, and one will, at the very least, be inquisitive. But now, hopefully, based on this extensive presentation over these 3 classes, then you'll understand this well, and you come across it in the future, immediately you'll understand and not have any doubts. Then thank you. We can conclude there for this morning, so enjoy your lunch.